Welcome to Men's Anonymous, the podcast where men can be vulnerable and open without fear of judgment. Your host, Daniel Weinberg, leads authentic and unfiltered discussions that explore the challenges and triumphs of modern manhood. Join us as we break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and redefine masculinity. Men's Anonymous, a safe space for men to lower their shields and share their inner world without judgment.
On this week's show, we have Luke Larkin, who gives us a deep insight into the world of digital addiction, sex addiction, digital dating, etc. Very excited for this show, Men's Anonymous. Luke, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So we've been discussing this show for a little while, so I'm so glad that we're doing it. And where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Boise, Idaho right now.
Idaho. I think we had another. Don lives in Idaho as well. Is that correct?
Yes, Don, one of my
We have
best friends.
another previous guest from Idaho. That's I've never been there, but yeah, Idaho. So today we're going to be deep diving on the world of digital, the digital relationship world, let's say, the world of digital compulsion and addiction. It's an honor and quite an opportunity to be able to speak to someone who's had quite a lot of not only first-hand experience, but has been through the roller coaster, the peaks and troughs of this world. And so I'm looking forward to you sharing that experience. But most importantly, you've also been on a journey where you have gone into a journey of losing control and regaining back control. And I really want to talk about as well what you're doing now in the space where you are educating and giving people tools, especially young folks, which are mostly affected, on how to manage those compulsions and addictions so that they don't fall into the same traps that you've either experienced or observed. So why don't you tell us, just give us a little wrap on where you grew up and we'll kick off the journey.
That sounds great. Thank you. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I moved out west about 10 years ago to Utah, and I've been in Idaho for the last 4. I've worked in addiction recovery, primarily with substance abuse for over 7 years. So, CBT, 12-step, dialectical behavioral therapy. I've facilitated it and I've watched it firsthand. But like you mentioned earlier, I've had my own journey through addiction. Mine wasn't necessarily substances per se. It was more, getting lost in the digital world. So just grateful for the opportunity to get to talk about it, and hope that people who hear this and it resonates know that they're not alone. And I think what's probably been one of the most profound impacts for me is just shifting from like a very self-centered mindset, or this core belief that I am the center of the universe, and then being able to zoom out and understand that not only am I not the center of the universe, but my story and my pain and my experience can actually be like a powerful tool for others. So grateful for the opportunity to share that today.
Very profound, very profound. So I'm 50. I did not grow up really in the world of digital. I grew up in the analog world. Around the time I was in university and post college days, was the beginning of the internet. Mobile phones, they weren't smartphones back in the day. There were the Ericsson, Nokias, Motorola's, that vibe. That really only started also in I would say early college to early working. So like when I traveled after college and took a gap year, when I took a gap year after finishing college. It was payphones, reverse charges to your parents, like wanting to speak to them, like when you're even meeting up with people. It wasn't, let me text them and we'll find it. It was like, no, we're going to meet at that point, and when we get there, wait for me, don't go anywhere. I'll come. It was very much like that. So I never really. I also married the first time in 2004. Okay, so fast forward. This is that's the first internet boom and crash period. It was all about the internet. It wasn't smartphones. I think only came around 2006, seven, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think the iPhone came out. So I never ever really experienced firsthand, for example, dating on digital dating, Tinder, signing up to I don't even know what they call it. I don't even know. Like I know Tinder, Hinge, or
Yeah.
okay.
Hinge,
There's a
Bumble,
Bumble. That I think I invested in a couple of those
Coffee and
things.
Bagel.
I think
Oh yeah.
I definitely invested in a
Smart.
couple of things, but
Smart.
never really experienced it. We got divorced, married again. Didn't have the experience, and even after that whole round of being divorced the second time around, I never ever really got into the the digital dating scene. Then that's on that front. Then when it came to, let's call it, pornography. So I grew up with grew up with magazines. Okay,
Playboy,
Playboy,
Hustler, Penthouse.
Penthouse, Hustler, that okay. Then there was the VHS tapes of like there were like the ones you'd find in your parents' drawers, or if you go to the video shop, there's the room in the back where there might be some R-rated and X-ray, but that's about it. When you travel to Europe, when you travel to Europe and you turn on the TV in your hotel room, they had the channels where they had full nudity, not in the US, but
Yeah.
that's all. When I started working, when the internet was definitely, it was the internet hype, okay, and you had email, and okay, so people would start sending through literally PDFs of just static images, and then you started having video come through. Then fast forward, maybe mid 2000s, then you started getting YouPorn, YouPorn, Pornhub. Then you had all that stuff started really percolating because you had faster bandwidth, et cetera, et cetera. And then I've seen that journey, and you see how the availability and proliferate. There's so much to choose from, and the content that's available just went crazy. Now, in our discussions, you mentioned OnlyFans, of which I had heard of before. I have no clue. A lot of the audience, I'm sure, is aware of what OnlyFans. I had no clue about what OnlyFans is, and I guess the business model behind it, or how it actually works. So I'm going to get you to explain a lot of this stuff and how people get caught. But all of it culminates into, for the user, and what I see even with my kids, just with things like TikTok and Snapchat and all, is this behavior of what is coined, what I've heard coined to be things like doom
Absolutely.
scrolling,
Absolutely.
it's like
Yes.
boom, 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 boom.
Hmm.
And the point is that it's unlimited. It's almost unlimited to infinitum. So that there isn't the time in the day to see everything that's available. You could sit there for
Yeah.
weeks on end, and you would just see like unlimited new content coming through. So the user is being swarmed by a tsunami of content, of which it's almost impossible to manage
Yeah.
without putting controls in place, like being very disciplined and in general. And I'm not just talking about porn addiction or or dating it, like the digital scrolling. It is today, the children that we have today are being wired from a very early age into
Yeah.
the behavior. Okay,
Yeah.
so you grew
Absolutely.
up in a period where you and your, let's say, generation and below have been wired over time into, this is how we interact, this is how we behave, this is how we consume content, etc. And as much as the old father or grandfather say, this is what I call brain rot. So like I'll tell my kids, this is rotting your brain. This is brain rot. This is
Yeah. 100%.
destroying you. And it's very difficult for them to understand what I'm trying to tell them because,
Hmm.
which is fair enough, because it's all they know. It's what all their
Mm.
friends and peers do. It's what they
Yeah.
see around them. So,
Exactly.
like you're asking people to engage with technology for education purposes, for employment purposes, for learning. Not like not just education, but also just learning. That's how you access information. So
100%.
everything's been blurred. So what I want to hear from you is that the journey of what it's like to date on Tinder and all the other platforms. You can maybe explain. I want you to talk to us about how and I did speak to I had a guest on the show, Greg Sutton, who is a therapist who focuses on the area of sex addiction. So we have spoken
Yeah.
a lot, but that's from a therapist's perspective. And also, he gave some anecdotal stories around, and maybe some more extreme cases just to highlight where it can go. But I think what I'd like to hear from you and take this opportunity is for you to walk us through the what you're experiencing, how you're experiencing it with the other. So like the women you're dating, how they respond, how the actual interaction works, why it takes away from the actual social romantic connection. I want you to talk me through the OnlyFans, how that works, why one gets addicted to it. Porn, you can talk me through that. You can touch on the porn story as well, and what you experience and what you understand other men, I'm going to assume, have experienced
Oh yeah.
more than women, but I'm sure women also do participate in obviously curious, and they also have their own sexual needs that they need to be satisfied, and I guess it all ties into where relationships are going these days as well, and you see birth rates across the world plummeting. In some countries, like places like Korea, it's actually less than one now.
Yeah.
And if you look at just mathematically speaking, when populations go below one, over time those populations are going to invert, meaning the
Hmm.
pyramid's going to have old people, young people, and it eventually dies out. People don't really understand that because they're living in today's world and can't really think of what's going to be like in 100 years' time. But that's effectively what's going to happen. So I'll pause there and let's start with digital dating and how that works and how it actually, what's going through your head, what's the dopamine, serotonin that's being released, like what's the doom scrolling, the the actual engaging and meeting people on that basis without having true connection, what those experiences are like, etc. So let's kick off there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful setup. Thank you. Like you said, we're so far away from, when the first caveman etched a stick figure of a woman with boobs. 4K video, streaming services, Wi-Fi everywhere, Starlink. It's constant and it's always available. And like you're describing as a father, watching your kids grow up in this digital world, it's overwhelming, and I imagine like quite disconcerting to see people you love kind of like immersed in it and not even be aware of how prevalent it is, because that's their baseline. I think growing up at the time I did, it was interesting because I grew up with VHS tapes. We would record the Olympics on a VHS, so we could watch it the next night. And going from that to high-speed internet and, like you're saying, just like this massive boom in the early 2000s, that's only increased like dramatically. I would say if we're going to dive into dating, especially now, I think it's hard to do so without bringing up COVID, the pandemic. So things like organic connection or meeting at coffee shops or, bars or, running clubs, for example, people, we got pushed into our homes, and our lives became more and more online. So especially for dating, those opportunities for those like chance encounters at places you would normally frequent really diminished. But with that, even now, you're seeing like this kind of proliferation of these dating apps, which you mentioned, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, etc., where that's now become like the norm of how you meet a partner. And, one quote that comes to mind, I think it was Seneca, excellence is not like one random act of heroics. Excellence is what you repeatedly do. It's a habit. So, I can only speak from my own personal experience, but when you're making snap judgments about people on a screen with, like a thumb swipe, to be brutally honest, I mean, we're looking at like 1.2 seconds of, judging, because it's like the opportunity cost to, read every single person's profile and look at every single picture, and do so intentionally or consciously it's just not incentivized. So
basically, what you're saying is the opportunity the opportunity for a woman to be met by you using that application. She's got about 1 to 1.5 seconds opportunity to make the impression on you such that you will decide to tell her that you're going to give her a like. The swipe is a like or something. So she knows that, you actually found her remotely interesting.
Yeah, compelling.
Enough. You know nothing else about you. You're not
100%.
actually reading and saying, "Oh wow, she's into running. I love running too." No, nothing like that. It's literally, it is completely surface area. The image that you see, move on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, you mentioned several of the dating apps, and that's a testament to the user design, that more and more dating apps that are coming out. I mean, Hinge is a great example where they really do their best to de-incentivize like compulsive swiping, where it's like, it's not just a thumb swipe, but you have to kind of pick something about someone's profile and like it. Tinder is very like swipe left, swipe right, which I think does, it's a very simple design pattern to hopefully bring more consciousness or more intention to like the dating world. But yeah, I think again, it's like what are you looking for? How much energy are you willing to put into it? And then, yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, how are you going to condition yourself? What are the tools? What are the patterns that you're going to engage in? And are you even going to be conscious of them? Because I think, like you're saying, even with your children, it's like you're not really seeing that. It's just inherent. It's compulsive. It's mindless. And I'm not like I am a technologist. I'm grateful we can even have this conversation across, the Atlantic Ocean, and the opportunities that technology has allowed us, are just massive, immeasurable even. And I'm very grateful for that. with that being said, there are a lot of traps or, digital sirens, if you will, that are constantly available that I don't really think get the attention that they deserve. So yeah, I think looking at digital addictions and like how prevalent they become is not just important, but it's really become kind of like my core life's work. So
So let's go.
happy to
Let's,
discuss
let's
it.
yeah, big time. But let's go back into the process of you like the other. She ends up okay. I also like the look of you. She's also done the swiping, and so or she's received a message that said, "Oh, you've received a like. Do you like back, etc." Explain the process of actually what happens when you're meeting someone in this type of framework.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different options, or directions that it can go. Digital flirting versus like standing in front of somebody at a coffee shop, for example, is radically different. I think one reason that whether it's gambling, gaming, porn, online shopping, one of the reasons it's so pervasive is there is a degree of anonymity to it where you're not, even on Twitter, you see these people like in these hateful, like screaming matches into the void, where they're talking to a phone, with punching their thumbs onto a black screen. And when you stand in front of somebody and, they have a completely different worldview than you, and you engage in like a conversation or a debate even, that's so radically different
Oh, absolutely.
than what we're seeing. And I would say the same is true for dating, where, the traditional courting process is just, I would say, like a lot of the steps are being skipped. And not to say that we need to go back to like a Victorian, white knight thing at all, but the opportunity to truly get to know a person while you're meeting them online is fractured. You're seeing an image of them that they have curated through filters, lighting, I mean, even AI, like leveraging AI to find prompts or, compelling about me sections for a profile. And you're interfacing with that directly. So really getting down to like who somebody is at their core essence, what their life goals are, what their core values are. Like, are they in alignment with yours? Do they have a lifestyle that is in line with, or at least consistent with yours? These are things that I think kind of get like swept under the rug quite a bit. And it's very easy to fall into a pattern where it's like, hey, look, hey, nice to meet you. We flirt, you pick a time or a place, you grab drinks, go on a walk. So you're already kind of like pre-vetted. There's no real vulnerability. Whereas if, you approach a woman at a bar, you're vulnerable. I mean, they don't know who you are, except for like the split 3 to 4 seconds of you introducing yourself. And so much information is being conveyed like in person. We talk about like, oh, 70% of communication is nonverbal, but like the difference between like punctuation and emojis on a dating app versus like somebody standing right in front of you and making a bid towards you, conveying interest or at least conveying some sort of playfulness or flirtations, it's radically different. And I think what we're seeing is those natural like skills in person are atrophying because they're not being reinforced. There's a lot of dopamine and a lot of validation behind like getting likes, and it doesn't take that much effort. So it's like you're getting dopamine spikes without the vulnerability. And then you're seeing a lot of people who they might get high on it and it might be a nice crutch. I mean, it certainly was for me.
So
But you let
explain what that means. The the dopamine hit that you're getting. Explain where are you getting the dopamine hit from the so I'm just going to try and paint a picture, okay? And you're going to guide me whether I'm going in the right direction here. So you're connected, like on the date, let's talk about the dating stuff. You're connected to multiple apps. Let's say you signed up to a few apps, not one.
oh yeah.
I'm going to assume that. You're going to be interacting with multiple women at any one time. So you might have, let's call it 5 that have responded to you this week, okay? That like they spend some time, yeah, okay, like Luke. And you are messaging 5 of them, at different parts of the day, doing the digital flirting, okay? And I'm assuming that person, woman A is doing the same thing with 5 other guys as well on the go.
Oh, probably 50. I mean,
So so basically what's
100%.
happening is both the man and the woman are trading options,
Yeah,
many
exactly.
options.
Yeah.
They it's like what they call it. They call it horse, not horse racing. They call it horse trading. You know,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
literally just backing multiple horses at the race course, and they're just seeing what they can get out of each of them, and it's like almost playing one off the other, but they don't really know them because they haven't really met most of them, right? And it's literally just, hey, what are you doing? You know, very very small chat. No one's getting into deep. But how do you feel about the current, situation in Russia and Ukraine? I mean, you're not getting into. There's no deep conversations going on around. Tell me about your childhood, and that's not really happening. Okay, so it's very very surface level chat,
Yeah.
really, with and this is what I'm trying to understand. The ultimate end game being multifaceted here. Like, what are they trying to achieve? What was the man and woman trying to achieve? So you've just highlighted one of the things they're trying to achieve is the likes, the attention, the
Yeah.
dopamine,
Validation.
the
100%.
validation. There's that. There also must be some motivation to have a physical, a sexual
Yeah.
experience as an outcome,
100%.
but
Yeah.
very much void of deep connection or emotion. It's very much a release, a sexual release.
Well,
Let
it can be. It certainly can be. Again, I think a
no,
lot of that is like the intention you bring. And one thing that is kind of radical and wild, in coaching men that I've witnessed third person is like how differently we behave on different online platforms. So nothing's changing necessarily. You're still on the same phone, you're still on the same laptop, but like how people perform or behave on TikTok versus Facebook is fascinating. And I would say the same is true for dating apps, where even the pictures you choose to curate on Tinder versus Hinge, radically different. And these narratives that you're creating are kind of like they're all coming out in different directions, different angles, and then different people are responding to those patterns or symbols. So yeah, I think, like especially things like Tinder, among other apps, it really does reward like hedonism. I mean, it is very like, hey, like I think the social undercurrent or expectation is that, yeah, like there's,
it's a hookup app
yeah,
as
yeah,
opposed to this is going to go further, and we're gonna actually become exclusive of that. That can happen, but in general, it's just horse trading on an app to have physical experiences, or have perpetual flirting, digital flirting experiences where you just keep like feeding each other, the dopamine hit without the physical experience even.
yeah, exactly. I would say when you see a woman on Tinder with like long-term partner as her goal, it's kind of like a blind woman going in for a hearing aid. Like she's looking for the wrong thing in the wrong place. So,
Now, how often do these apps lead to you don't actually have a physical meet, but you
oh, all the
you
time.
you end up no, but you end up having digital sex.
That can certainly be the case. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, full disclosure, that was definitely part of my pattern. So
But tell us your pattern with regards
yeah.
to the apps.
Yeah. So I mean, I think probably with any, with any sort of like pattern, uh, I think it's important not just to look at like, oh, where's the pleasure coming from? Where's the dopamine coming from? But what's like the utility of this? Like what role is it serving? What pain is it numbing? Like what pain is it managing? So
Yes.
for me personally, I was 13 years old and you're talking about different devices. I had one of the first LG camera, like flip phones, one of the first phones with cameras. And there was a girl from a neighboring high school and, got her number and I have two amazing parents. They had a rough divorce and, custody at that point in time was kind of, it was tough, for everybody. And I found so much like reprieve in that little flip phone of being able to message this girl whenever. And yeah, I mean, it was sexual. And, feeling connected, feeling validated, with no vulnerability, no risk whatsoever. That was really my first exposure and I was hooked. I was like, wow, I love this. Like, this is amazing. So it was a reprieve, right? Like, so it wasn't just about the pleasure, but it was also about the pain or fear that it masked or allowed me to run away from. So that was my own personal experience. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so much of the digital dating world is, I know it sounds cliche, but it's like you get what you put out, like the energy and intention that you bring into it is ultimately what you're going to attract. And you see a lot of like broken people looking for another to fill them up, fill their cup, fill like the void inside of themselves that they're afraid to face. And yeah, I mean, I think it ultimately, I think it costs them, it certainly cost me. So, does that answer your question?
In a way, let's just um more keep going into explaining to me and the audience. Explain to me we've spoken about the porn addiction before, and it's pretty obvious what a U porn or a Pornhub or I mean, I'm sure there's so many of those things. I personally I would say that growing up, I would have been really into porn because it was restricted. So you're more, yeah, I think you're more into it when you can't get it. And as it
100%.
and as it became so available, like I personally haven't looked at porn in years. Um, and I'm not a big masturbator, so but
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people are into it. Obviously, it's a fucking huge industry.
Billion, trillions.
And so like I think most of the audience understands porn and where that goes. But I think the new age is things like OnlyFans, which I'm going to get you to explain a little bit to me. And I do have one friend who obviously I'm not going to name, who has ventured into, and maybe this is what OnlyFans is. I don't know where you it's webcam or
Sure.
where you
Yeah.
actually start talking to someone and it's almost like a digital your own private digital um strip girl or
Sure.
whatever, where there's like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
what are you going to pay me to do, like that
Yeah.
that's and they're engaging, and it's like, it turns on the person because it's like let's say it's like a private lap dance in a way, but it's a digital lap dance.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So talk me through OnlyFans. What is OnlyFans?
Sure. So, you're talking about certain stages of, like digital pleasure in general being a little bit after your time. So I would have to say the same for OnlyFans with me is we really saw OnlyFans explode during COVID. And again, like when you isolate people physically and then you give them a check and tell them to stay in their houses with Wi-Fi, we see, it's not rocket science to see that, people will find ways to, gratify themselves, seek pleasure, try to avoid pain, maybe manage the fear and anxiety of what was going on, this global pandemic, which is when
I
only,
think it's a really strong point you're making around this COVID period. Effectively, what you're saying and what I fully agree with you is that period accelerated exponentially a lot of these type of things, and it really pushed people into the digital world because they didn't have the physical world available to them. So
yeah.
I'm very aligned with you on that thinking. So tell me what happened with this OnlyFans situation.
So I think what you saw is essentially the digital commodification of intimacy. Like you just mentioned, porn is ubiquitous, it's everywhere. You can drive down a highway and see it on a billboard. It's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's everywhere. Like it's constant. But it's voyeuristic, like you're
One
watching,
way. It's one way.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
You're like,
voyeuristic. It's one way. It's just the person observing. It's not interactive.
right. At least, yeah, it wasn't at this point. So enter OnlyFans, which is this illusion of intimacy where you essentially feel connected to the person because they're now messaging you directly. And the sad truth is, like, they're not messaging you. Like,
But
there's a bot, there's a, like a webcam farm in Russia or India where they're pumping out these direct messages for these actresses
oh,
and
yeah,
these
that's
guys.
out there. The actual conversations are outsourced. So
Exactly.
you have a woman who's got an
Yeah.
OnlyFans. What I don't know what is it, a space? I don't know
Their
how.
account, a
Okay, an
profile.
OnlyFans account. She has contracted a third party to do
Hmm.
the actual messaging. So
Yeah.
that you don't even know who you're effectively talking to a computer. But men don't really realize that that's what they're doing, okay, or they do and just accept it.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the most dangerous lies are the ones that we tell ourselves. And I think any logical man, like, you see a certain like pattern of behavior or speech, and it's like, if it seems too good to be true, then like it probably is.
Yeah.
But because of like the desperation, like the sense of isolation and like desire for genuine connection, without feeling like they have the tools or the wherewithal or the courage to go and like initiate it, it is kind of like a convenient lie because the lie only affects their bank accounts. And, one thing I was thinking about the other day that I find fascinating is I think in, people looking like third party or like when I work with men who are struggling with things like OnlyFans, you'd say, oh, well, yeah, I get it. It's great. It makes you feel good. You feel like you're connected, but it's affecting your bank account. I would actually now, given like the time that I've worked coaching men, is the payment is part of what they're getting out of it. Because, while it's been kind of repressed or rejected by our culture, like there is a profound desire from the masculine to provide.
Mm.
And what I think you're seeing is not only do these
You
people,
think they feel like they're helping someone out?
they're helping this beautiful princess with her, 12 vibrating toys, and they feel like they're helping her
Get
and
through
that
life,
like their
like taking
gratification,
care of her.
right? Yeah. And that she cares about them. And it's a niche, I mean, it's meeting a real need in,
Loneliness.
yeah, exactly. And
Very sad, don't you think?
yeah, I mean, it honestly makes me want to cry. Like, I mean, it's
It's sad from the
very
perspective
sad.
that it not only perpetuates the loneliness, but it takes away the muscle memory of learning how to interact with other people. Effectively, what I'm hearing when you say that, it's effectively pushing more and more people in society, particularly men, to a that place of loneliness, to that place of disconnect, to that place of low interaction with other, not just the opposite sex, but also, friendships, relationships, etc. It's killing that. It's killing that soul, that energy. That's pretty scary. I never really thought about that. So, and that also, I guess, it sounds like it's all related, whether it's the dating vector. Because what I also hear in my readings and talking to lots of men, what is also happening, even men who are in relationships, long-term relationships, marriages, etc., they are still in that accessing the porn or the OnlyFans and
Oh
etc.
yeah, 100%.
to get that dopamine hit, to get that release, etc., because they're not getting it, with their partner. And it also, the more they go down that path, also makes for a very unhealthy, relationship with their partner. It can start off like, oh, it's keeping things spicy or whatever, but when it becomes, another addiction, it's a loss of control, and it's actually negatively affecting their relationship.
100%. And I think, yeah, you beautifully highlighted how it damages our relationships, our primary relationships with the people around us. I would go a step further to say that the biggest harm is to your relationship with yourself,
Um,
where
very, very, very
you
good. I
you're
want you to expand on that.
you're no longer just, performing or paying or trying to chameleon your way into like somebody else's life in order to get validated. But, essentially like you're hiding from your own life's purpose. You're hiding from your own hero's story. You're finding a quick way to blunt yourself, to gratify yourself, to distract yourself from the things that you're truly afraid of. And I would say like the absence of like a genuine hero's story is what I see like that I think is probably the most prevalent issue, because when you have meaning and you have purpose and you have a why, these things start to lose their appeal. They start to lose their luster. When you create a life that's so vibrant, so meaningful and rich, you don't need Pornhub. You don't need OnlyFans. You don't need Tinder. If you are afraid or you're paralyzed by that, it's a very compulsive and compelling crutch, because it shields you in a way. It helps you hide. And yeah, I think it's affecting not just romantic relationships or, how people show up in dating, but really like how we show up for ourselves. And just grateful for the opportunity to talk about it so that other people can hear it, because it's real.
I've got a couple questions, which I'd love to hear. When you were when you were going through this and you were assuming you had serious relationships in this period as well, did you find when you were in those relationships, did it help you stop the compulsions and addictions, or were you doing it in parallel at the same time?
So, I mean, without getting too graphic,
And I don't want graphic details. I'm more want to hear around the. Did you manage to have self-control, or you still did not have self-control?
no. So what ended up happening for me, or my pattern, who I was online and who I was in like real life were two different people. And
You mean
even,
like you mean there was Luke and Luke's alter ego?
I mean, yeah, essentially, a very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of trope where I show up and present in one way like in the real world, and then I have this anonymous persona or like attitude. It's like radically different. And when I look at that version of myself, I have a lot of compassion for that person, and it brings on like a lot of humility, because I see two versions of one person, both desperately trying to receive love and refusing to or feeling unable to offer that love to themselves. And yeah, looking for love in another person, whether they're online, halfway across the world, or, on a dating app, there's just immense cost to it. The energy that it takes from you and your ability to show up for the people who are right in front of you is completely diminished. It hollows you out. And yeah,
How much did it affect your other relationships, friends, family, work? Like how much did it actually impact the other parts of your life? How consuming was it?
it's a great question. I would say that in the throes of it, I wasn't even close to aware of what it was costing me in my other relationships. In fact, I would say there was an awful lot of denial interlaced into it, where it's like, well, I'm still doing great at work. I'm still producing at work. I'm still performing. Still a good friend. But, when you're pouring yourself into like this void, you have like no true idea of like what it's costing you, and no real sense of how damaging it is in your ability to show up like as like your loving full self for the people that you love. And quite honestly, like it wasn't, in my own experience, like it wasn't really until I started to see how the people who loved me the most like started to pull back because of how empty I was and how they continued to watch me essentially like harm myself, that it really woke me up to the idea of like, wow, I'm going to lose the people who love me the most because I've put this above everything. Like I've made this into like, in a way, like my God, I've worshiped this. And yeah, having people who care enough to be like, hey, like I can't, I'm going to have to radically change how I connect myself emotionally to your life because of your insistence on hurting yourself, because now it's hurting me. Those are the words that my best friend said.
Say that again. Say that again.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna
Why? What was it that triggered them to come and say that to you? I want you to say those words again.
Yeah, so it was 2 years ago. Was in a super unhealthy codependent relationship. Just very reactive, dysregulated. There's this quote. It's like, "Show me an unhealthy relationship, and I'll show you two unhealthy people." And that was absolutely the case. And despite knowing that it was bad for me, despite knowing that it like wasn't in alignment, didn't help me become closer to like who I want to be. I continued to go back over and over again. And it got to a point where I was on the phone with my best friend and he was just sick of hearing about it. He was sick of offering the same advice and me nodding my head and then doing the complete opposite. And that's when he said, he's like, I can't continue to like watch this. And, your insistence on continuing to hurt yourself is now hurting me. And I'm going to have to change how I connect myself emotionally to your life because this is incredibly painful. And it was like a switch went off where I was like, oh fuck, wow.
He's the one that gave you the gift. Okay, so let's fast forward to today because is as difficult as your past was and it has been to talk about because we've been speaking a little while and I can see how how deeply personal this is and I'm sure there's a lot of shame, disappointment in yourself and whatever, but like we're not talking about the
There
past
was. Yeah,
now.
there definitely was. Yeah.
I want to talk about today and the future because you have taken all that negative energy and you have transitioned all of it into something hyper positive, which is I'm going to take all my learnings and my experiences and my exposure from the social work you've been doing, etc., and you're working with men and I want you to tell us today where are you like what are you doing now and where are you taking it because I think that's I'd like to really finish off with let's this is all for a positive outcome at the end of the day here so and not only a positive outcome but also something that's going to have a lot of impact on multiple people so you're going to lift people not just one not just yourself but many others so let talk us through that.
Yeah, thank you. So now I'm the CEO and founder of Taru. We're building AI tools to help people redefine their relationship with technology, specifically focused around compulsive behavioral addictions like gambling, gaming, porn,
Right.
online shopping, really any digital compulsion. And yeah, so I work one-on-one with men through coaching and help them to reconnect to themselves. And that's been probably, I mean, truly just like one of the most rewarding experiences in my entire life. And, our opportunity to also leverage, this AI revolution to help people form like a more conscious relationship with technology. Has just been amazing. We have an app that'll be launched at the end of this month, end of August. And yeah, we're just trying to give people the tools that I wish I had when I was 22. And
Can you walk us through some of the actual tools, the practices, like the AI tool is going to implement these things, but I want you to try and help the audience understand what are actually some of the tools that they can take away by you just describing them of what they can do that can help them be more in control and return to more self-love, etc. But talk us through specifically around the digital addiction, some of the tools that you are enabling and promoting.
absolutely. So one, it's almost stupidly simple and obvious in our research and then like the clinical research that's coming out. Things that are as simple and stupid as step counts throughout a day are actually incredibly telling about where somebody's at in terms of their like digital behavior. So,
Tell me what's a step count?
oh, so you have a phone and say you go on a 4 mile walk and it's like, okay, you have 9,000 steps. So I think a lot of this is because we are so sedentary, because we can be, mesmerized by these beautiful dynamic colors on a screen. I mean, we're so far from being hunter gatherers, but I mean, even just walking down the sidewalk, that energy has nowhere to go. And then you see this huge spike in what people are calling anxiety, and you have like hyper and hypo arousal, where like the energy isn't able to move through the person. So,
What's hypo and hyper? What's the
oh,
difference?
so it's just essentially like terms around like being overly like activated and like underly activated. So, an example would be like something I'm seeing a lot with men is like they'll use like three 9 milligram nicotine pouches, drink 400 milligrams of caffeine, sit in front of their computer and like try to work. And like, yeah, I just can't stop watching porn. It's like, okay, well, you're putting rocket fuel to your body with a Wi-Fi connection in a locked room and hoping for the best. Let's get super, like, let's dumb it down. Let's get super simple. Like, how much are you moving? How much are you walking? How much time are you spending outside? Are you getting direct sunlight? And I know that's so, so, so simple. Another tool that I found to be unbelievably helpful and seen it, like witnessed it be helpful for men as well is I know there's like, the mindfulness movement, everyone's like, oh, you got to meditate, just meditate. But so one small like tip or trick that you can do within 30 seconds is alternate nostril breathing,
Oh yeah,
where
yes.
you do like 6 seconds in through one
Do
nostril,
a
you
quick
hold
one.
it.
Do a quick.
Oh, sure. So you would hold your thumb like this,
Yep. And what you deep breathe in,
deep breathe in, and then hold it, and then switch and exhale through the other one. So
and how long do you hold for?
1 to 3 seconds is fine. But if you do that for 5 rounds and you're in a state of peak craving or, you're in euphoric recall or just cannot get focused or you feel scattered, it's amazing what like 30 seconds of intentional breathing can do. And that's just one of many different exercises. So part of the digital tools that we're developing are doing our best to connect people to those exercises in real time when they need it most.
What about just the ability to restrict oneself, like the access? Is that a reality? Are people like you think people can really do that, or that's too hard to give an addict? Hey man, here's unlimited Wi-Fi and unlimited porn. Just make sure you only do an hour a day on with the Wi-Fi. I mean, it's not really realistic.
So yeah, that's a
Here's
great
a bag of
question.
here's a bag of cocaine to a drug addict and say, listen, one line only, man. Just
One
one.
bump, just
Just
one
one.
key bump.
Just
Yeah.
one. Just one bump. It's just not possible.
Well, yeah, and I mean that really hits at the core of addiction, right? It's like one drink is never enough, one bump is never enough, one click or scroll is never enough.
That's
And really quick, what I would just want to highlight that's happening is, you're experiencing this massive spike in dopamine, and our bodies, which are like they're beautiful and they're brilliantly designed, So for something with sex, for example, after you orgasm, oxytocin and serotonin are supposed to like surge after the fact, where that's like where the emotional bonding after the dopamine spike occurs. And with things like porn or even like online sex or OnlyFans or camming, you're not getting that serotonin or oxytocin. So like the need to increase the dopamine like skyrockets exponentially
you see
because you're
more.
now making up for a deficit in these other yeah, like other processes that you're essentially like hijacking for hedonism. So that's, I think another core part of it. Yeah. And one thing in terms of like digital access, I think there is utility in creating blocks or like friction to make it less immediately accessible, particularly when somebody's brand new to doing their best to redefine their relationship with technology. But I'll say from personal experience and from working with hundreds of men, like it's not enough, like because any guy can like disable a blocker,
Yeah.
find like a different Wi-Fi source, a different device,
They're
like
not children, basically. That's not like a
yeah,
parental lock is happening. It's like, no, it's not going to happen.
yeah. So it could be helpful initially, but it's certainly not a cure-all. That's for sure.
And are you, I don't want to be extreme, but given your exposure to the many men that you've been dealing with, are we talking about is this a pandemic? is this something that's just growing out of control, or you think it's sort of like it's just at a level where it exists? Do you see, it's this type of addiction doesn't seem to be placed in the same category as drug addiction,
Uh,
alcoholism, being addicted to alcohol, or like prescription drugs. It doesn't seem to have the same, let's say, reputation, or what I mean. It's been like, oh, like addicted to, oh yeah, I get a bit addicted to it. It's almost like it's not really being spoken about, and is sort of acceptable in a way, because
mhm.
it's hidden.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
do you,
Exactly.
but
So I
what
think
you're seeing, are you seeing it get a lot worse, or you're just seeing it's like it's like, is it growing like mushrooms, or is it contained? How do you see it?
I would say, and I think it's actually really beautiful, is it's becoming such a issue and such a problem that we're finally being forced to address it. If you look at the social taboo around Alcoholics Anonymous when it was founded, I mean, nobody wanted to be connected to that. And now, you hear about somebody being 5 years sober and they're a fucking hero. And, but that's almost a century of like work and time and our culture learning how to like integrate these different recovery processes. Because if you tell somebody like, oh yeah, I used to be addicted to opiates, we've seen the documentaries. We hear about the pain pill, factories. It's like, okay, oh yeah, I understand that. Like, oh wow, you've been sober from heroin for 3 years. That's amazing. It's like, yeah, but like you tell someone like, oh yeah, I used to be a degenerate gambler and helplessly addicted to porn, and people are like, that's fucking gross.
Right,
So
right,
I mean, the only way to really like come out of the darkness is to bring light to it. So the more you can normalize talking about it, and what you're seeing, I think actually on a major mainstream scale, is we've ignored it for so long, and it's so in our face that we literally can't help but finally now address it. I look at the podcast like ad reads for some of the most popular podcasts in the world, particularly the ones marketed towards men, and what are they selling us? They're selling us nicotine, they're selling us dick pills and gum, and they're selling us sports betting. So it's like your dick doesn't work because you watch so much porn. You need dopamine from nicotine or caffeine, or, even like, oh, you have ADHD? Here's fill out a form, get some Adderall. Like, so, we've used a lot of crutches to try to like address the problem, and it's created certain markets. But I think, yeah, people are finding that they're simply band-aids. And I'm really excited and grateful for that, because now we have this amazing opportunity to reconnect to ourselves and then reconnect to our purpose in a way that we otherwise wouldn't. So without like the pain of that void, of that hollowness, of that brokenness, you would never really be able to return fully to yourself. So that's where I think we're headed, and I'm excited and grateful to be a part of it.
Luke, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate it. I know, we've had a few conversations, and I know takes a lot of courage to make yourself vulnerable publicly, really to be able to tell your story, because I think deep down inside, and given the work you're doing, you know that it's going to be a net positive. It's going to help others, and you've really come so far in your journey. So you must be very proud of yourself, and it's just so beautiful to see, a man reconnect and fall back in love himself, which is at the core. And until one can really fall in love with themselves, you're not going to really be able to love others. So it's really touching and beautiful to see that, and get to know you. I love the work that you're doing. Can you just spell the name of what the app is, so that the listeners will hear, and will hopefully follow it and have a look at it, review it, use it. So how do you spell the name of the app?
So right now we have a live coaching service called Untethered. So if you go to untethered.voyage, you can get set up and connected. We have a free 30-minute call. No risk or commitment. If this is something you're struggling with or you're interested in learning more, or somebody you love is dealing with this, we encourage you to reach out. We have a Chrome extension called Heal Shield, which
Heal Shield.
yes, HEALSHIELD,
Yep.
Heal Shield. It's live on the Chrome extension store right now, and it's a tool that helps people bring like mindful browsing with intention back into how they relate and connect with technology. So there is an AI component, there is a nervous system breathing component, and yeah, we're excited about it. It's something, I think.
The name of the app. What's the name of the app?
Well, the app, stay tuned. We'll drop the link in description in the chat. But so
Okay, great.
those are what are live right now. So super excited about that.
That sounds amazing. Okay, when I finish off my show, I always shoot 5 questions to my guests. So I'm just looking for what you're feeling inside when I ask you those questions, and 20 words or less.
Okay.
Okay, so who would you like to say sorry to given the chance?
Great question. I would say all of my past selves who believed they needed something external to be worthy of like love or connection, as well as, like the women that I've, fallen in love with in a broken way and not shown up with integrity.
Okay. What are you proud of being or doing in your life?
This is fucking terrifying, and it's exciting, but I mean, I'm really proud of the work that we're doing, helping men get reconnected, and I'm grateful for I've thru hiked the Sierras by myself. I've mountaineered, I've trail run, I've trained MMA, I've done a lot of awesome things, but yeah, definitely serving others and hopefully using my story to help them realize that they're not alone is probably the thing I'm the most proud of.
Amazing. When did you receive kindness while needing it most and expecting it least?
Probably, I think, being a teenager, in hindsight, I had a lot of incredible men who, went out of their way, just to be supportive, to guide me. Soccer coaches who would make sure I could get to practice, even if it was like an hour away, would drive me home. English teachers, history teachers who could like sense my genuine curiosity and really help like foster that as well as my creative thinking. And then, some male mentors who they took the time to, be supportive and loving and guiding. And I don't think I was even able to fully appreciate it at the time, but in hindsight, incredibly grateful.
Amazing. What did your mother or father teach you that you frequently remind yourself of?
From my dad, probably, what you consume through your ears, through your eyes, and through what you eat is ultimately going to affect like how you show up and what you're able to produce. And my mom, there's never really an excuse to not tell the truth.
I've heard that from my mom as well.
Yeah, we have some good moms. What
is your superpower?
I think just being able to sit with people in like the most uncomfortable and painful moments in their life and offer them like unconditional love. Not because I'm a guru, not because I'm some know-it-all with biohacks or productivity tricks, but just really like that I and thou relationship of being able to fully see somebody, even when it's the most painful, is probably my superpower.
That's amazing. Luke, absolute pleasure. Thanks again, and we're going to talk soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you.
That's it for this episode of Men's Anonymous. Thank you for listening. For more information on the Men's Anonymous podcast, including resources discussed in the show, visit mensanonymous.com. Join us next time as host Daniel Weinberg provides a non-judgmental space for men to voice their innermost feelings and thoughts.